Greetings and welcome to a lightning fast tutorial on Albion Online. Now, this is not going to be some comprehensive, exhaustive tutorial on all of the game systems. That video would be way too long, but rather a fairly light introduction to the game to help you get started. And of course, we got to start off with the character creator. Now, you've got some basic body presets, which you can then go through and further modify. It's a fairly basic system, but it does its job right. Now, for the most part, you are going to be covered in armor and not really able to see much, but it's not uncommon to die, and especially if you're doing PvP, you're going to end up in your underwear quite a bit, so yeah, decide how you want to look to other people when you don't got clothes on, because it's gonna happen. You are not allowed to have spaces in your name, so do keep that in mind. And when you start up your first character, you do want to make sure that you have the play tutorial button checked. Now, I'm not going to go through every single beat of the tutorial. That would be a bit silly. But there are a few things that I want to point out as I am going through it. But in general, this is going to be a phenomenal introduction to the game. The first thing I do want to cover is chat. This is an MMO. General chat is MMO general chat. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, let's just simply say that the intelligence level of general chat can vary a lot. Also, none of these people have consented to be in my video, so I kind of don't want to be showing what they're saying. So I am going to go through and disable all of the chat settings. Which again, is fairly easy. You just, once I let the chat box there fade away, you just click on the chat button, click on this little up arrow here, go into advanced, and now you have all of your chat settings. You can, it's pretty good chat system, actually, as far as managing things. But I'm just going to go through and remove all of my chats. Now, to be fair to the community here, I'm not trying to say that the community is awful. Absolutely not. The community in Albion Online is generally pretty good. But this is also a PvP-oriented game, and general chat is general chat. It's just always going to vary a little bit. The next point that I want to bring up is questing. The tutorial section is the most questing that you are going to do. Tutorials in Albion Online solely exist to help explain the mechanics to you and explain to you where to find things. That is it. There is no guided storyline or anything else like that. So if you are looking for a sort of theme park experience like World of Warcraft or Guild Wars, Final Fantasy, something like that, you will be disappointed. Quests in this game solely exist to teach you mechanics and the locations of things, which is fine. It's a player-focused MMO. Players are the content, basically. Or at least as the storyline content, I should say. That would be a better description. Also, with the exception of the occasional cut to knock out dead space, I do all my videos in one take. So forgive the occasional stumble over words, because I'm not redoing the entire video because I flubbed one line. Now, I'm gathering a few extra resources here, which is absolutely not required. It's just going to slightly speed up a little bit of gathering in the next section. And I'll talk more about gathering resources when that becomes available. A quick note on equipment. Most weapons, actually, I take that back, every weapon, and some pieces of armor have multiple skills that you can select for a slot. All of your skills are based on the equipment that you have. And so when you equip new stuff, make sure that you choose your skills. If you see a little question mark down here, you are wrong, you have forgotten to set your skills. So make sure you always do that.
You're my right hand.
By the way, a fairly quick way of equipping an item is just simply to right-click on it. Just realized I was doing that without talking through it. So if you right-click on something that is equipped, you will unequip it. Right-click on it, and you equip it. You can also drag and drop as well. So I can drag that off, drag it back on. I generally prefer to use right-clicks. Combat. Pretty simple. You click on an enemy, and you will do auto attacks. Notice that I do not automatically switch my target. So I was just getting wailed on there. Enemies, or the AI at least, have fairly short leash ranges, so it is fairly easy to disengage from a fight. If I want to change targets, I have to click. So click on that guy, auto attack him down. Once he's done, I have to click on the next one, and then I continue to auto attack him down. Of course, you're intended to use your skills. So I can select him, and then press Q, do my skill, do a little dash, has a cooldown timer on it, and there we go. Enemy killed, and much faster. And that's pretty much combat. Now, on the tutorial, this next part is going to talk you through the Destiny board. I'm going to wait a moment before I talk about the Destiny board. Now, despite the fact that I just cut out my visual of that, I would recommend that you take the time to actually read all of the prompts and stuff. But I want to, like I said, I want to cover the Destiny board after I get out of the tutorial. Alright, an important thing to note, where are my friends? Like this little pop-up box says, the tutorial island is sort of like a randomized instance thing. If you are coming in to play Albion Online at the same time with a bunch of friends, there is no guarantee that you will all end up on the same tutorial island. Don't fret it. Even if you're taking your time and just sort of carefully going through the tutorial, you're going to get through this 30, 45 minutes maybe. Doesn't take that long to get through the tutorial.
Don't be shy.
Okay, marketplace. The marketplace is an absolute key aspect of the game, but not this one. Do not waste your time with this marketplace. Follow the tutorial, buy your mule,
See you later.
and then never open up this marketplace again. There is no point to it. We'll take a look at the marketplace in our starter city. And this right here is why I did my little bit of extra gathering. You need to craft these two items. And because I did my little bit of extra gathering, I can go ahead and get those gathered immediately without having to mess with this area here. It's not a big deal, honestly. The resources here regenerate absurdly fast. And on the note of regenerating resources, one of the first quest things it's going to have you do is come into the two zones, and in one zone you will be gathering wood and hides, and in the other zone you'll be gathering metal and cotton. Don't get carried away gathering. The resources do respawn very fast here, and so it is fairly easy to gather the resources. There's two issues with spending a whole bunch of time gathering additional resources here. One, you aren't advancing as fast as you will once you get out of the tutorial zone. And we'll get to that in a moment. So you are advancing slower here, even though the resources respawn a little bit faster. Two, you have a very limited amount of weight. And you don't have any good way of dealing with getting rid of weight other than throwing away items. So you don't really want to overload yourself in this area. What I would in general recommend is you kill like You do like 3 to 4 harvests of each resource, and then call it a day. That will make sure that you have enough both to complete the quest that you are on, and also ensure that you have enough to do the questing for the second part of the questing, of the crafting. Dear Lord, words are hard. The crafting quest that you will do later. Okay, and now I want to talk about the Destiny board, because we've gotten our first learning point, and we're getting to the part where we really do need to talk about the Destiny board. So, if you've been going through the tutorial, you have already seen this once. If I will explain learning points on my own, thank you very much, tutorial. So let's talk a little bit about this. It is nowhere near as scary as it looks. This is mainly for unlocking equipment. So how it works is you've got a couple of main spokes. You have your adventuring spoke, which controls all of your fighting equipment and gear. You have your sort of, I would say, your general level spoke here. This controls what level, air quotes, you happen to be, which really only impacts your damage scaling against PvE enemies. You have your crafting spoke, which contains all of your ability to craft both tools and fighting gear. You have your farming spoke, your gathering spoke, and your tracking spoke. The farming and tracking we will take a look at much later, as in a different video. They don't fit here. But generally how this works, as you take actions, you gain reputation or experience. So by going through and gathering what I did, I now have 234 out of 240 experience for the trainee gatherer. If I go out and I do some more gathering, which I will do just as a demonstration, there we go. Mastery achieved, trainee gatherer. So as I gathered on that fox, I got gathering experience. And now if I come over here and I look, this node has now been completed and the subnodes have been unlocked. And you can see I have 7 points in Skinner because of the overflow of experience or reputation that I got for skinning the fox. This is where learning points come into play. See this line right here. If I get enough reputation or experience to fill up to this line, I can skip the rest of the grind and use learning points to finish off that particular skill. So your learning points give you a way of accelerating your level growth. Everything has this pretty much, except for a few of the super basic nodes, like the trainee gatherer one didn't have, and the trainee crafter also didn't have learning points because you almost would be no scenario in which you would use a learning point there. But now the game is going to soon want me to reach trainee fighter, complete this, level 1. And it's going to cost me 1 point once I reach this much skill in training fighter. Now, for the tutorial purposes, I am going to do that. The general consensus by the Albion community is that you should never spend learning points on combat skills. Because you can gain experience on combat skills much faster than you can on crafting skills. So just as a comparison, here's some birch logs. I'll harvest these. Got 4 rep, and of course 4 reps. So I got, for a fully charged, I know it's kind of weird, for a fully charged tree, I get 12 experience. And if I take a look at my Destiny board, to level up lumberjacking, where are you? There you are. I need... Wrong one. There we go. Lumberjacking. 2,250 reputation. Good golly, Miss Molly. That is a lot of trees. So you generally are going to want to save your learning points for speeding up your crafting stuff, especially gathering. So in comparison, let's jaunt over here and fight off some ne'er-do-wells. Ooh, plus 23. So, in that little short combat spat that I just did, I earned about 60-ish experience on my combat. And just look at all these enemies around here. Oh, yep, there was another 17. You know what? There's a lot of pairs of people here, so I'm going to change my skill. This would be a good demonstration of this. I can, at any time, come in here and change my weapon skill. So now I have the area of effect one. And you can see just how much faster it is to earn combat experience versus crafting and gathering experience. Again, I would not necessarily spend too much time grinding in the tutorial area. You will have better killing fields later. It certainly doesn't hurt if you want to spend some time just kicking around bandits. And there we go. Learning point reached. So now well, actually, let me get out of the game. Well, hopefully I don't get attacked and killed. Don't worry. Like I said, tutorials are done after this point. So now that I have reached the learning point, I can click the Learn button, skip the rest of the trainee fighter grind, and boom, training fighter has been completely unlocked. Like I said, the general consensus amongst the Albion Online community is using your learning points for the combat skills is generally not a good idea. You want to save that for your gathering skills specifically, maybe also your crafting skills if you're wanting to focus on that, because those tend to be much, much more resource intensive. Okay, almost done with my points that I want to cover on the tutorial section. One of the last things that you are going to do on Tutorial Island is craft your first set of gear. You have your choice between the warrior gear, so sword and board and plate armor. You've got the hunter, which has a bow and leather armor. And you have the mage, which has a staff and a tome, which is just sort of like an accessory. And cloth armor. You are not obligated to create all of one set. You can mix and match. And in fact, you're generally expected to mix and match. For example, if I wanted to have a plate helmet, I could come over here and craft a plate helmet. I could craft then a leather chest piece.
Deadly choice. Strike true.
And then come down here and grab some cloth boots. Every piece of armor has its own set of stats and skills. So the helm comes with a stone skin to give me additional armor. The mercenary jacket gives me a heal and a reflect spell. And the mage boots gives me a sprint that I can use. Also, they have different stats. So the mage gear generally has higher energy regeneration, whereas the plate armor has better health regeneration. those equipped. And once you have your first set of Tier 2 stuff equipped, just throw away the Tier 1 stuff. There is zero reason at all. It's not even worth selling. There's like no reason in the slightest to keep around your Tier 1 stuff. Once you get Tier 2, junk it. Same thing for weapons. I can, technically, get a sword and a spell book, or a staff and a shield. Obviously, I can't mix and match with the bow because it's, a two-handed weapon. It takes up both hand slots. I like throwing fire at people, so I am going to craft a staff and a tome. And then, like I said, I'm just going to junk the Tier 1 stuff. No point in keeping Tier 1 stuff. Now, there actually is a small point on Tutorial Island of doing what I have done here, of having one plate item, one leather item, one cloth item for armor. It doesn't necessarily have to be helm, jacket, boot, just as long as you have one of each. Because again, let's go back and look at our Destiny board. I have a skill for leather armor, I have a skill for cloth armor, and I have a skill for plate armor. By having one piece of each equipped, I'll be able to level up all three of the basic journeymen while I'm going around adventuring and killing stuff, and it'll just make it a little bit faster to unlock those, which once you unlock the Tier 1 stuff, you get access to the Tier 3 stuff, which then opens up a lot more opportunities for builds and such. Okay, one last thing on Tutorial Island, choosing your initial destination. So once you finish the tutorial, you have the choice between the 5 different cross towns. They're all called cross for whatever reason. And you will notice each of them have a focus on resources. For example, Forest Cross has wood, hide, and stone, whereas Swamp Cross has fiber, hide, and wood. Now, this choice matters and it doesn't. Each of these zones you will be able to get reasonable access to all materials. You might have to travel 2 or 3 zones to get to those resources, but it's not that big of a deal. What do I mean by traveling zones? Well, we've already looked at the map once in the tutorial, but let's take another quick look at it. Now, everything is grayed out right now because I am on Tutorial Island, and it's not going to let me travel anywhere. But for example, if I go to Highland Cross, which is where I am going to go, I would have access to, from that town, to Slime Hag, Brent Knoll, and Mace Knoll, which are all Tier 3 areas. If I look at Mace Knoll, I can see a distracting cloud. I can see that Mace Knoll has access to level 2 to 3 wood, 2 to 3 stone, and 2 to 3 metal. And by the way, different zones can be stronger or weaker in different things. Just because all 3 items can be found in a zone doesn't necessarily mean that they are found in equal measure. So part of the game is just simply exploring around and finding the zones that you want to go to gather certain types of material. So Mace Knoll has those items, whereas if I go to Slime Hag, I have wood, skins, and there, so wood, stone. So I've got access to everything. It just depends on which zone that I go to. Wood, stone, and metal are the ones that I have the easiest access to. Slime Hag, yes, has skins and cotton. But honestly, I would be better off going into Curfew Fen to do more on that. Also notice for, say, Tier 4 zones and higher, we have enchantments. Resources can be enchanted. That's not something you really need to worry about as you're getting into the game. And I'll have a separate video covering enchanted resources and basic tips and tricks for gathering those. Just be aware that the higher level the zone, the better the stuff is going to be on it. That said, do pay attention to the color of the zone. Yellow and red regions are PvP enabled. Yellow regions, you will only lose some money if you die. Red regions, you will lose all of your gear if you die. But again, I will talk more about PvP and maps and regions in a different video. Just be aware as you're walking around that if you go into a yellow or red zone, you are at risk. Final point to make here is that this decision of which cross city you want to go to isn't particularly important because it's fairly easy to reach all the others. So if I wanted to go, say, to Desert Cross from Highland Cross, I could just simply come through here to Mace Knoll, go to here, come down through here, avoid the yellow zone, so I'll come down to here, then I can come over here, 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 and then finally, there we go, step cross. A bit of a journey, might take me 10 minutes or so. It's really not that big of a deal. Also, when you get to one of the main cities, which you can tell by the little glowing light coming out of them, you do have some limited fast transport options available. Just keep in mind that will cost money. Again, tutorial coming later. All right. I am going to go to Highland Cross. I don't know. I just like Highland Cross the best. It's not better than any place else. I just like the way this zone looks, to be quite honest. So I'm going to buy my journey to Highland Cross. All right. We're almost done with the introductory video. One thing that you absolutely want to do, like you need to do this. You need to talk to this guy. The orientation will be different as depending on which cross you went to. But as soon as you step off the ship, there will be this guy to talk to, or somebody with a question mark over their head. Complete and accept, and then come over and talk to the person you were directed to, and continue. This gets you a free 3-day premium. What is premium? Oh, here we go. Here's a box that explains it. But a slightly better box that explains premium is when you click on the premium status icon and bring up the premium window. So, Albion Online is free to play. You do not have to spend a single cent on this game. However, there's two gotchas to that. The first gotcha is that unless you are going to do some crazy grinding, you will not get a personal island. You have to have had 7 days of premium time on your account to be able to get a personal island. Not mandatory by any stretch of the imagination, but very useful to have. Also, when you are premium active, you get 30 learning points a day. That won't go as far as you think it will once you get into some of the higher level skills. But you get 30 learning points a day instead of the base 10. You get 10,000 focus, which enables you to do more efficient refining and crafting. And you get a plus 50% experience bonus to everything that you do. Yeah, you don't have to have premium, but not having premium will slow you down. Now, you can buy premium with in-game gold. Don't even consider this until you've been playing for about a year. I'm not being too facetious here. You need to be a good, established player to make it reasonable to be earning that kind of silver through the in-game economy / PvP stuff to be able to buy your premium via playing the game. This is your forever game. This is your gaming home. If you can pull this off, don't worry about it when you first start. The more sensible way to get premium, well, honestly, is to pay for it. Now, there's usually some pretty good starter bundles. So if I come down here and I look at just like the core premium purchases, 1 month of premium is $15. If I go over here to the starter bundle, I've got the Mistwolf starter bundle for $15. That also gives me some gold and a skin. Any of these, when you see this icon here, that is a skin icon. Nothing in this shop has power. everything is skins. So if I close that out and, like, say, look at this Demonic Warrior starter bundle, no, by the way, just no. But, you know, you got spare cash for it. Some people do. And, you know, to be fair, I've spent $100 on special edition games before, $120 on special edition games, so, you know. But it comes with an entire year of premium, 2,000 gold. It's like, I guess you're getting your money's worth. And a whole bunch of skins. These are just skins. It's like, this has no mechanical advantage whatsoever. I would actually argue it would be a mechanical disadvantage, because if you're running around in a PvP zone and you're rocking some fancy skin, yeah, you just painted a target on your back, my friend. I hope you're ready. Well, yeah, that's... I don't know. I personally would never buy this, but your mileage may vary. I don't know. But if you are seriously considering playing the game, I would actually say, hey, toss it 15 bucks, get premium for a month. It will accelerate your progress to help you get established. A month's more than enough time to decide whether or not you want to stick with the game, and it'll enable you to get a private island. Or if all you want is a private island, just get 7 days premium. Occasionally they will have bundles that come with 7 days premium, but that comes and goes. Like last month's sales, they did have something for $7 to get you, no, not $7, $5. They did have something for the 7 days, but I don't see it anymore. So store comes and goes. But you can almost always, I've never seen it not have a $15 starter pack with the 30 days. And you can also just directly buy skin bundles if you are so inclined to partake. And that pretty much does it for the lightweight introduction. I'm going to do a couple of other videos focusing on different aspects of the game, but this pretty much does it for here. If you like this video and you think you might have learned something from it, well, thumbs up would be appreciated. And if this has been all super basic information and a grand waste of time, well, the thumbs down button is right next to it. Have a good day, and I'll talk to you later.